Hi everyone. So I'm getting into a new topic. I'm going to start a new playlist on something that I've been researching for a little bit, and I want to explore and make these videos to help me document my journey exploring them, and if it's beneficial to anybody as well. Um, in this um, playlist I'm making here is going to be about um, the microbiome. There's a lot of research and new development happening in the microbiome, and I'm pretty excited about it. I studied it about 10 years ago for a little bit, but there's a lot more information that has developed since then, and I really like um, the awareness that it brings. Um, the microbiome is a diverse ecosystem that really sits in three major different areas: the stomach, the intestines, and the colon. And each area has a diverse amount of microbes that produce different compounds, short chain fatty acids. They create different signalings and benefits for the body, and we'll get more into all these later on. One of the biggest differences that why there's a different ecosystem or like diversity in each of the areas is because of oxygen levels. The microbes actually thrive in low oxygenated areas, and so as we descend from the stomach to the intestines and then into the colon, there's less and less oxygen in those areas. And it, all the food that we eat is broken down by these microbes, except for, I think, generally meat. I think meat might be the only thing that our body can break down, regardless of the health and condition of our microbiota or microbiome. Microbiota is more reference to local areas. So, like the microbiota on my face can be different than the microbiota in my under my arm. So, and then we'll get into fermentation. Um, that's another thing later on. Um, so, we'll see all the different ways it benefits the body, the diversity, different microbes, what they do, and how to take care of them, the benefits of each microbe, um, the short chain fatty acids, cross feeding. There's a lot of different topics that I'd like to get into. If anybody's curious about the gut bacteria, the health, the prebiotics, postbiotics, um, any questions that I can start with or make sure to get to be helpful, I'll be sure to include them in my upcoming videos first, and I can orient this in that way. The goal that I would like to achieve from just this is to have like a grocery list. We're going to need about 30 to 40 different types of like vegetables or different forms of fiber. Ideally, to have on a daily basis. Want really enriched diversity of different foods and vegetables and fruits. Polyphenols, prebiotic exposure, moderate fats, stable proteins, and then even on a weekly basis, we want some like fermented exposure. How much omega-3 intake, legumes. We want on a weekly basis to have 30 different plants diversity. That generally is enough to feed the microbiome and um, even different microbiomes that do similar actions or produce the same thing because it builds up resilience. Um, five family. fibers. So there's a lot of information that I want to get into with this, and I'm excited to get into this. Um, so I think it's going to be, when it comes to health and nutrition, there's not a lot of talk and awareness that I've heard that talks about the living bacteria in our body. You know, we talk about how much nutrients, or how much, nutrients are in these foods, but our ability to absorb those nutrients depend on the biota, or the microbiome. So like, there's three main really important short chain fatty acids that come from this, right? Acetate, propionate, and butyrate. And there's a lot of cross feeding from that. So one microbe might produce acetate, which will have its benefits, but another microbiome or microbe will eat that short chain fatty acid and produce butyrate. And this is what this cross feeding is about. And there's a lot of um, benefits that butyrate has for the colon. The structure, the immunity, resilience. And I say structure is like, you know, how well the lining of the walls are built, and um, things that we like, what reduces inflammation. It comes from, a lot of it comes from the signals and the health conditions of the microbiome. A lot of um, forms of inflammation or the itis would probably depend on the microbes. And then this also comes into pH levels, and we'll get into that as well. But ideally, I'll come up with a couple of recipes, um, a better awareness to identify how, what microbes might be lacking, or what imbalances might be developing in the body, and how to correct that. And if there are other aspects of this that are a strong application, that we can extract the wisdom and application of this information to our diet, leave a comment, let me know. And I haven't created entirely an outline just yet for how I'm going to put this information together. Like, I have a very basic perspective. What is the gut? What is the gut biome? What am I talking about with the microbiome system? The gut barrier, fermentation, fibers, and food maps, like what is inulin, not insulin. What resistant starch foods, like rice, cooked potatoes, legumes. What are gel fibers, glucan foods, polyphenol-rich foods, cruciferous vegetables, what they do, how they benefit the body, why should we eat them, how much should we eat, fermented foods, healthy fats and absorption, what helps us absorb these nutrients better than it just passing through. But like, there are a lot of butyrate, certain foods, like inulin foods, won't be broken down until they reach the colon. They can't, our stomach and our intestines can't break those down until we get to the colon. And then they will break them down and digest them and help development of that area stay healthy. Um, Proteins and microbial metabolites. And we can also see, if we want to go in this direction sooner, what really affects it, like stress. Really, the body is, the microbes are actually very sensitive to stressful states. Use of cortisol or things in the body that becomes acidic. There's a lot of things that affect the microbes in that way, and I'm going to go further into that as well. Ultra processed foods really harm the microbiome. The lack of sleep also really affects the microbiome, and we can go into that in what ways. Um, and then all the different cross feeding and microbial cooperation, food combinations and synergy. Like if you take like garlic and onions or certain roots, and you cook them with, say, butter or certain other foods, and there's a compound effect that it has in the microbiome that just helps build and nourish. So we get more effects. Like if we eat certain foods that produce a short chain fatty acid, and we need the short chain fatty acid for certain things. Like butyrate has a lot of, butter has a lot of butyrate in it. You mix that with certain foods that produce butyrate, and you can feed more microbiome and have more butyrate for where it's needed in the body as well. So the microbiome really, I see, helps the body. I don't hear a lot about, um, in the diet and nutrition world. There's the macros, there's the micros, but I don't hear too much awareness being presented about the microbes. Most of our body is foreign microbes. Most of our DNA in the body is different microbes. Um, Even what comes out of us, our fecal, is not waste or toxic. It is generations of microbes that have passed. It's really more of a graveyard than toxic waste of all the dead microbes that have come as a production of the increase of life and generation that comes from the food that we have eaten. All the food that we eat doesn't really, I mean, it can pass, unless it passes through the body completely, but most of what we eat turns into our body. And what comes out of us is not waste, but the microbes, the microbiota. That's why it's such a, you can tell so much about the health of a person or any being by its stool, or what comes out. It's because it's all microbes. Very you know different awareness to all of this. Um, we could even go into how to rebuild. Sometimes when we take antibiotics, it actually obliterates our microbe, um, which is one of the reasons what the appendix is for. Um, is like almost like a system reset. That if that does ever happen, that kind of carries a way to reset our microbiome. Um, okay, so this is just a different direction I'm gonna start to put together here. I think this is something that I really would like to know. Again, I'm I'm not a doctor. I'm not even saying you should take anything, any advice from this. I'm exploring this information and I'm sharing my exploration here. I haven't completely studied this. I haven't gone through it all. This is more of a documentation of me learning and growing into this information. And you are welcome to join me in this. Most people will post once they're already studied and have that established. I'm posting my journey to getting to that point. So this is from the very beginning here. Um, if anybody has studied this and would like to comment in the direction or anything on the matter that I can go about, let me know. And yeah, we're going into the microbes. I personally enjoy this a lot because I like Western and Eastern medicine, and I feel like there's a there's a lot of fundamental principles that um, is rooted. Like this is I feel and I connect to this as a strong bridge between Western and Eastern medicine. I would probably, after what I would like to do going from this, is explore cross-referencing with Ayurvedic dieting. Um, I feel like a lot of its wisdom is based on principles of the microbiome without really addressing the microbiome. And I want to see how much of that is actually true. But I need to know about the microbiome first. And before we could get into all the different doshas and times of eating and the different body types in relation and what foods to eat in reference to your body type, I think I, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a lot of truth that we can find in the microbiome that will support Ayurvedic dieting. And um, I can't answer that until I learn the microbiome first. So I'm starting with this. I'm gonna explore this and make a playlist about this, and hopefully I can finish with a different recipes, a grocery list, a weekly food menu, or monthly food menu, different things to eat and what combinations and when to maintain a healthy microbe, how to identify when our microbiome is off balance, and how to restore that, and what keeps it healthy. Um, Not just through diet and exercise, but through stress management, sleeping, and other factors that keep the microbiome healthy that we might not be aware about. So, thank you for joining me on my journey with this. If this interests you, like and subscribe, comment below about what you're more curious about, and I can explore into that further. Or comment if you know. And I look forward to exploring this more with you. Thank you.